Remember Jah, wanna be remember Jah. You will never can leave Jehovah. You will never can leave Jehovah.
Peace, this your host Selah, Shalom. And this is the Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible OAHSPE. And the topic of discussion today is called the building blocks of creation, the spiritual and physical connection. Now, in creation, all things have system and order, seasons and cycles. There are three fundamental factors that are very important in understanding creation. And these three fundamental factors are, first, the periodic table of elements, which is the physical makeup of creation. These are the material used in the building blocks of creation. Second is the pH scale, which represents the balance of life, the balance of nature, the balance between acid and alkaline. This is the original ma'at before the concept of ma'at existed in ancient Egypt. The concept of the pH balance existed first. Third is the electromagnetic spectrum, which represents the vibration, speed, and frequency of all things in creation. Understanding these three fundamental factors, you will understand life and creation. Now, the building blocks of creation starts and ends with the gas, which is synonymous with spirit, which is the foundation of all creation. The process of creation starts with the gas state of existence. When this gas is put into motion, this motion is called vortexian current. It's vortexian currents that hold quarks and atoms together. Now in the beginning, the motion of the vortex was the first step to the building blocks of creation, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1. Verse 1, all was, all is, all ever shall be. The all spake, and motion was, and is, and ever shall be. And being positive was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. This motion referred here is the motion of the vortex. The vortex does not exist of itself. It has to be given a rotary in order for it to exist. Somebody has to start its revolving. And that somebody is the creator. The creator is the only one who can put into motion a vortex to create worlds, corporeally or etherically. So in the beginning, before the light was the vortex, because in order for light to be, it has to go through a process of manufacture for that light to be generated. And that light is generated by the vortex. So before the light, in the beginning, was the vortex. Now that we are clear on that, the first cause of creation is the vortex moved by the creator. The next thing to understand is the material used for creation and forming the vortex. And this is where the periodic table of elements come in at, because the periodic table of elements is the physical makeup of all creation. When we look at the DNA strand, we see a vortex, which holds in place the structure of the DNA. And they say DNA is the building block of life. And the minerals used to make up DNA is hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus. And these are the material used on the periodic table of elements to make up the building blocks of life in the formation of a vortex. So now, when the vortex is given a rotary and it begins to gather in the material, being the minerals that's expressed on the periodic table of elements, it begins to gather in these minerals in a gas state, creating the vortex, driving the minerals to the center of the vortex, producing a ball of fire. And this ball of fire is where your light is generated from. When it says let there be light, it's when the minerals is congregated, amalgamated in the center of the vortex, producing warmth and heat, and then manifestation of light appears. That's the function of creation. That's the building blocks of creation. All planetary bodies, sun, moon, stars, or planets, starts off in this very essence. From the vortex gathering minerals to the center of the vortex, producing warmth and heat, producing light, a globe of fire, basically like a sun. And then from there, the steps to creating a suitable planet begins. See, this is a system and function here, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 3 and 4. Verse 3. The whirlwind made I as a sign to man of the manner of my created worlds. As thou beholdest the power of the whirlwind gathering up the dust of the earth and driving it together, know that even so do I bring together the Aja, the Jaya, and the nebula in the firmament of heaven. And by the power of the whirlwind created I the corporeal sun, moon, and stars. And I commanded man to name the whirlwinds in the Etherian firmament, and he named them vortices and warps. According to their shape, named he them. By the power of rotation, swift driving forth in the extreme parts, condense I the atmospherian worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporeal worlds. In the midst of the vortices made I them, and by the power of the vortices I turned them on their axis, and carry them in the orbits I alluded to them. Wider than to the moon of a planet have I created the vortices, and they carry the moons also. So this verse clearly explains and gives natural examples of the function of the vortex. And to prove that the vortex is the first manifestation in creation, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 6, where it states, verse 6, for each and every corporeal world created I a vortex first, and by its rotation and by the places in the firmament whither it traveled, caused I the vortex to conceive the corporeal worlds. See that? So with this verse, it tells you that the vortex is the first cause of creation. So if the vortex is the first cause of creation, explained so bluntly in the OAHSPE, why doesn't the Bible tell you this? Why doesn't the Bible tell you the same thing? Because the biblical creation is a false account. So before a planet is formed, the vortex has to exist first. Before light is manifested, the vortex has to exist first. Once a vortex produces a planet, in order for that planet to have organic life, it has to maintain a pH balance. And this is where the pH scale comes into perspective. Because in order for vegetation to be suitable for animal and man, vegetation has to maintain a certain pH level. If the pH of vegetation is too acidic, it'll be unsuitable to digest for humans. So the pH balance in nature is very important, and it is expressed throughout the seasons. Now, when we look at the pH scale, you will notice it's color-coded. Now, the balance of life is color-coded green, representing vegetation in nature. So when we look at nature and we see all the green in plants and trees, it's representing the balance of life. And the number 7 represents green on the pH scale, representing the balance of life. This is the original Ma'at, expressed in nature. The number 7 is where acidity meets alkalinity. And it is at 7 that acid has its limitation. So when we observe nature in the fall, when the grass and leaves begin to turn yellow, orange, and red, it's a sign of acidity taking root in vegetation, signifying the death of vegetation and the coming winter season. See that? And when the spring comes around, the grass, leaves, and trees goes from red, yellow, and then it begins to turn green. And when green, it's a sign of alkalinity taking root in vegetation, signifying the life of vegetation and the coming summer season. See, this is how the pH scale, being the balance of life, the original Ma'at, Mother Earth, is expressed and seen in nature. See that? Now, when we look at the electromagnetic spectrum, we're dealing with the seen and unseen wavelengths. All things we see range from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. A nanometer means short measure or short wavelength. These waves are vortexian current. The velocity of the vortex moves at different speeds and wavelengths, producing different colors depending on its range of wavelength. When we look at the electromagnetic spectrum, what we physically see What they call visible light occupies a small fraction out of the whole electromagnetic spectrum. So the physical visualization is measured within 400 to 700 nanometers. Anything existing outside of 400 to 700 nanometers is invisible to the naked eye. And this is where the realm of the unseen exists. The unseen is unseen to us, but not unseen to those existing in that realm. Well, who are those existing in that realm? The spirits of the dead, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. Verse 7, the corporeal man made I belonging to the seen, but the spiritual man made I as one within the unseen and everlasting. Verse 8, as the corporeal man beholdeth corporeal things, so do the spiritual man follow upwards the evaporated corporeal entities of things. As corporeal things are tangible to the corporeans, so are spirit things tangible to the spirits of the dead. See that? So with this verse, it sums up that the spirits of the dead do exist in the realm unseen. And this realm unseen is expressed on the electromagnetic spectrum, such as the infrared, the microwave, the radio, which are lower frequencies. Then you have the ultraviolet, the X-ray, and the gamma ray, which are higher frequencies. It is in these realms, these frequencies, these vibrational tones, that the spirits of the dead reside after death. Spirits that are vibrating on a lower frequency exist in a lower realm, being in the range of the infrared, the microwave, and the radio. And spirits existing on a higher frequency exist in the ultraviolet, the X-ray, and the gamma ray. Now, when we look at some of these TV shows where they try to communicate with the spirits of the dead, such as Ghost Hunters and shows like Destination Truth, they will use instruments with electromagnetic frequencies to try to pick up on the spirit, showing you that spirits can be detected using the electromagnetic spectrum, proving that spirituality and physicality has a connection using science. Now, you have people that are able to hear and see spirits. They call them mediums, they call them clairvoyant, clairaudient, different names that they have for people who could hear spirits of the dead. Now, people who could hear these spirits are capable of either rising or lowering their vibrational speed. So if a person can increase their vibrational speed above 800 nanometers, you could pick up on the sound and sight existing in that realm. So if you pick up on an 800 nanometer right outside of visible light, you'll be able to tune in that realm. If you're able to go below 300, which is outside of visible light, you'll be able to pick up on that realm if you could control your vibrational frequency. And this is the reason a lot of times a lot of mystics, prophets, went up on mountaintops and communicated with the angels, because the vibrational frequencies is moving at a faster frequency in those higher plateaus up mountains. And this is why the mystics and the prophets ate fruits and vegetables. They maintain a vegetarian diet because alkalinity increase your vibrational speed. So once you go up these plateaus, you will increase your vibrational speed. That's why when Moses came down, he was radiating light, because he was vibrating at a higher frequency. And when you vibrating at a higher frequency outside of visible light, you will be able to tune into the realm unseen, which is outside of 400 to 700 nanometers. That's one of the secrets why the prophets and the mystics used to go up on a mountaintop, because they could communicate with the spirits due to the increase of electromagnetic frequencies existing outside of visible light, which is 400 to 700 nanometers. See, this is a science. So with that, science is proving spirituality and showing the connection with physicality as well. Now, in the book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 11, verse 12, it states, when a prophet hath attained to discharge vortexia, so as to make raps at will, he is also subject to the presence of people from the unseen worlds. And these people, spirits or angels, use this vortexia for a foundation for sargos. Sargos is a term used where these angels are able to manifest in the presence of prophets who are able to manipulate their own vibrational frequency. So here this verse is showing you that in the unseen realms, in the higher frequencies, in the higher electromagnetic frequencies, that spirits of the dead exist there. So this is taking the spookism out and showing you that science is proving all things, because physicality and spirituality are basically one and the same, moving at different vibrational speeds. And another thing, if you notice, the coloring of the pH scale, the coloring of the electromagnetic spectrum shares the same commonality because it's all connected. It's one synchronized order once you understand it. And the way you raise your vibrational frequency is based off your diet, once again. See, your diet is the foundation as well. Once you understand the truth, you will realize that the temple is really your body, and you really got to take care of it. Like in the book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 9, verse 10, it states, herb food for man cultivate the negative condition. Flesh food for man increases the positive, which is to say, flesh food carries man away from prophecy, away from spirituality. See that? So with that alone, it's telling you that by eating carnivorous foods, you're steering yourself away from attaining prophecy. You're furthering yourself away from spirituality by consuming the flesh because you're lowering your vibrational frequency. You'll be in that unseen realm in the lower frequency as expressed on this chart, on the electromagnetic spectrum. That would be considered your hell. And that would fall on the acid side. See the correlation? But when you eat herb food, which is increasing the negative condition, which is alkalinity, because alkalinity is a negative charge, and that falls on the higher frequency side, which would be considered the alkaline side. See how it coincides? Where the vibrational frequency is more faster. That's the side you want to be on. When you cross over into the unseen realm, you want to be on the vibrational frequencies that's moving at a higher rate. And with that, you have to improve on your diet, making your body more alkaline while still alive on earth. And with that, I'd like to say peace and blessings and catch you on the next documentary. Shalom.
Remember Jah, remember Jah. You will never